and welcome to the second episode of IP series for today. My name is Rita Anwuri-Chinda, and I'm your host once again. Thanks for joining us. So last week we talked about the rights of copyright owners and the roles of a collective management organization. Today, we will be talking about exploring movie franchise in the film industry. Now, you may be asking what prompted the topic for today. As usual, I always have, a case study. Now, I got to find out yesterday that today, Star Wars, which is a big movie franchise, will be 43, celebrating their 43rd anniversary, since the first movie was created. So, I'll just go right into it. Film and franchise are like 5 and 6, which means franchise is seen as the business side in the movie industry or in the film industry, whereby filmmakers can commercialize their movies. Now, if you've been listening or following me, I've always talked about, franchising as a way for IP owners, which is intellectual property owners, can, commercialize their IP. So another way for filmmakers to, generate funds or revenue for their movies or their brand is by, building a franchise. So what is a franchise in the film industry? Now this is defined as a business plan for generating funds from branded films. So films like Star Wars, the Marvel collection, Harry Potter, Toy Stories, Lord of the Rings, Mission Impossible, Die Hard, Batman, Hunger Games, Spider-Man, Terminator, etc. So so that's an example of globally known franchise. I also forgot to mention Turtle Ninjas. The Cambridge English Dictionary defined franchise as a right to sell a company's product using the company's name. Now, with regards to film, the Cambridge English Dictionary also defines it as a series of film with the same title and also about the same character. So you might have leading characters, and then you might have supporting characters and minor characters, etc. That is what a franchise in the film industry is all about. So what are the terminologies that you come across when it comes to a franchise, or how do you identify a franchise? So you see a reboot of Terminator, or a sequel, or a prequel, spin-offs, trilogies, etc. Now, coming back to base, that is Nigeria. Do we have a movie franchise in Nigeria? I think I would say for the grade CD movies, the ones where you see actors and actresses are not really popular, where you have season 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I would really call it a franchise, but I think it falls within that category because you always have sequels upon sequels and sequels, and you're having part 1 to 8, and you're wondering, when is this movie ever going to end? In recent times, I think a movie that struck a chord with me that I would say could pass as a franchise would be the Living in Bondage movie. So we all know that Living in Bondage was really big back in the early 90s, and last year, was it last year or this year? But a remake, they sort of had like a recent twist to Living in Bondage, showing the child of Andy Okeke making the same mistake that his father also made until he gave his life to Christ. So Living in Bondage for me, and I know I did see online sometime late last year, that Nneka the Pretty Serpent was also, there was going to be a sequel to that. So I think the film industry in Nigeria is also taking notes or key from Hollywood. So sometimes when a movie is born or written, no one ever envisions that it's going to be successful, or how it's going to be received by the consumers. It just happens organically. I think that's how the whole franchise thing happens. So most times you don't set out to build a franchise or monetize the movie, but when it happens, you're like, okay, so we got a good review the first time. Why don't we just just make another movie, and then you find that it keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger. So I think one movie that comes to mind when it comes to that is the Transformers. I really love Transformers when it came out, but I think the last one did not really do. I think for me, I kind of felt like they should have just stopped at the successful part. Fast and Furious as well. I think a lot of people had issues with Hobbs and Shaw, but I did enjoy the movie, So it can also be, franchise can also be likened to be where a family, where a husband and wife initially decide to have one kid, and they end up with like 3 or 4 kids. They always talk of family planning when it comes to marriage and stuff, but with movies, there's no family planning. You just want to just create a beautiful movie out there for your consumers and hoping for the best. So you're more or less just depending on the response of your consumers. I don't know if that makes sense, but yeah. So in simple terms, franchise is like giving birth. What are the ways a filmmakers can generate more funds or revenue from a franchise is by developing the brand itself into a merchandise, either exploring the character merchandise. For example, let's use Frozen as an example. Frozen has the Elsa merchandise, Anna's and Olaf merchandise and stuff like that. Then you can also license the franchise itself, which ends up being a win-win for investors and stakeholders and everyone who was involved in that production. You can also sell off, the movie rights to someone else to, develop it better and then be earning royalties from it. So like I initially said, our inspiration for today's IP series is Star Wars, which is for 3 years, and that's huge. So like 7 years from now, they should be celebrating their 50th anniversary. That is, if they still have more movies, that they will want to produce. And this Star Wars was created by George Lucas, and he's like a very, very big director. So questions that came to my mind while I was doing the research on this morning was, when should a franchise know when to stop? I mean, sometimes you watch certain franchise movies and you're like, when are you guys just going to stop? When are you guys just going to stop? And then you find that it's not anywhere near or close to ending. And then sometimes, I think because of the reaction or the response from the consumers itself, the filmmakers, the scriptwriters, and everyone involved in the production of the movie just want to keep going and till whenever they run out of ideas, I guess. So this will depend on certain factors. One, when you keep recasting the same lead characters, the brand itself might lose its flavor. You might start to lose audience and stuff like that. So sometimes you see that some movies production cost a lot, and then at the end of the day they end up not making as much as they spent. So last year I was invited to speak at the film festival in Port Harcourt here, and in the course of my research I found out that the wedding party too, the money that was budgeted, like spent in producing the movie, was running into several millions. I think it was about, I can't remember now, but the money they got back after creating the movie wasn't up to what they made from the first one, and it got me thinking, should they have made a sequel to the wedding party, because wedding party 1 was really, really awesome, like nice. So just let me know, do you think recasting the same leading characters can dampen the movie, or reduce its quality? So not having a good storyline too can also affect a franchise, especially when it seems like you keep mixing up and bringing up and springing up things. So what are the keys to surviving a long-term franchise? One will be changing of the plot or the script. So you have to be creative while developing your sequels and your reboots, etc. Because now you're trying to appeal to different generations. So you have the younger generation, the middle-aged generation, and then the older generation who have been following your franchise or your brand for a very long time. So those ones that can be considered to be like your loyal fans, like how Star Wars have Star Wars fan base is so huge and large. Like every year they have this festival, and you see that people dress up in costumes based on their favorite characters, etc. So another way to surviving a long-term franchise will be creating something your audience will enjoy or love. So I think the quest to building a brand is the ability to always appeal to your audience. And you also have living through the character. That's a good character. So whoever is being given the role to actually be able to play out the character really well, that will make the audience really like the movie. So I think the Joker movie, the Joker movie, the last person that played the Joker movie did a fantastic job, and he actually did win an award for that, and made the audience and the consumers feel his character in the movie Joker. But I'm digressing because the stuff for today is Star Wars. Then you also have partnering stories. So I did listen to a podcast today, and they did mention this as a key point to surviving long term, and they gave an example of King Kong and then the Godzilla story, which the Legendary Pictures bought the movie rights to. That way it also helped the producers of the movie and the franchise and the brand itself buy into a bigger audience, because you have fans from King Kong, then you also have fans from Godzilla, and everyone will be super excited, like wanting to know who's going to win, etc. Then you also have audience response also determines the success of a movie becoming into a franchise, and I think that's really true. So if you do well at the box office, there's a chance that if you decide to have a second movie out of that, and it's actually going to do well, coming back home again. I think it was because of the success of Wedding Party 1 that they decided to do Wedding Party 2. Even though it didn't do so well like Wedding Party 1, but it was really still a good movie. Now you also have sentiments to a particular character playing a particular role. Again, in the podcast they did mention of Men in Black International, the one that came out last year. A lot of people were expecting to see Will Smith and his partner, but ended up seeing new faces, and I think that kind of affected the brand and the franchise. But yeah, so I think sometimes you have a certain generation or certain consumers who are sentimental to a particular character playing a particular role. Like they feel if it's not, for example, if it's not in the Thor movie now, if it's not Loki or Thor, Chris Hemsworth playing Thor, I think most people feel like, oh, it's not going to be, gang. The same thing with Spider-Man as well. Then you also have, you have to allow your brand evolve organically. Don't, try to do so much. Just let it flow. If you put it out there and the audience like it, good for you. If they don't like it, then you find a way to, make it a lot better. Another example that I was given was the Alien against the Aliens movie. Now, you also have another way of surviving long term is switching of directors to allow different directors bring in their creativity and ideas to a brand itself. So let me know, what are your favorite film franchise so far, globally, not just in Nigeria? So we're talking of franchise for any movie out there. Now, Star Wars has a lot of has found a way to commercialize their brand by registering the Star Wars logo. They also have video games, they also have theme parks, attractions, comic books, toys, etc. So Star Wars is estimated to be worth $70 billion. I don't know if I got it, but yeah, that's how much Star Wars is worth. So if you're a Star Wars fan, do let me know. It's also the 5th highest grossing media franchise. So going forward, my advice for the film industry in Nigeria, filmmakers, producers, directors, I'm not saying they're not doing a good job, but IP is like an intangible asset that everyone, whether you're creative or an innovator, needs to tap into. So going forward, what are the things that we need to do? We need to see IP as an asset. Know that your assets is really, really valuable. Have an IP strategy. Explore commercializing your IP by licensing it or building a franchise, which is like our topic for today, or assigning it or selling it. Also very, very, very important, register your IP as soon as possible. Like I mentioned earlier, the Star Wars logo is already registered, so you can't use the logo without the permission. When you have an IP, you have exclusive rights to use your IP. Anyone who wants to use it will require your consent or your permission or authorization. Also have an innovative marketing strategy. Also build anticipation from your consumers through teasers and trailers, which has been explored over the years. Build a brand. So once your movie hit big, find a way to build a brand out of that. Don't just sit back and relax. So like I told someone some time ago, when the party came, and I expected that they were going to explore the success of the movie by building a brand out of it. They could have trademark wedding party WP. They could have created franchise and character merchandising using Adesua, Baki W, etc. But we learn every day. You can also explore character merchandising, like I've said. If you look at most of the franchise that are out there, sometimes you see that characters are being monetized. They create toys or books, clothing, etc. out of a particular character. That way you're able to generate funds from different angles. Also invest in production value. With that, I come to the end of our second episode for today. Do let me know what your thoughts are about this particular episode. Until next time, thank you once again for joining. Goodbye.